All right, Marlene, you're first.
I just thought it was such a great teaching. Just this morning when I was spending time with the Father, I had something that I felt like very emotional about. I was like, I'm impressed to do this thing. And you popped in my head. Guess what you said? You said...
It is what it is.
No. You said, what is the result that you're expecting by doing this? And so I was like, is it likely to happen? And so I decided not to do it because I wasn't gonna get that result. So I really appreciate you, because we have to hear it enough times that we can actually respond properly.
So for those who don't, maybe you've never heard me say that. So look, I've said this a lot. That's why Marlene was hearing it in her head. Before you make a choice to do something, especially for example, like posting something on social media, whatever, always ask these questions. First is, what result are you hoping for? In other words, why are you posting this? Okay, and the second thing is, what is the likelihood that that result is actually going to be what you get? And so first of all, the first question alone may get you to stop because you may realize that the result you're looking for is dumb or not appropriate in some way, okay? Because a lot of people put these really lashing out type of things. And it's like, well, why are you putting that? And they'll say something dumb like, well, I'm hoping that the person reads it and it's gonna change them. Really? How many people do you really think are gonna change because you threw a nasty post attacking them? Nobody's ever gonna change because of that. They're just gonna get more mad at you about whatever, or just block you or shut you out. So always, those are good questions. I'm glad Marlene brought it up. Always, before you do anything, for your own clarity, ask, well, why am I doing this? In other words, what is the result I'm looking for? And then, is this the best way, or is this even likely to get that result? And the answer is no, then why would you do it? And so you did well today. That was good.
Yeah, and it takes me honest, especially with the blue tendencies, with the emotional tendencies. You're like, well, if I say this, then it should help them to whatever. Like you talked about changing people. Like we can't, so that helped me this morning. Hallelujah.
Good.
And I appreciate you. I was thinking some of the same things when I started, processing this with the Father. Some of the same things you were saying, like the rose-colored glasses, and seeing some negative things, that you're like, it just goes right over your head. The filter is so real, And I really appreciate, I was thinking about you again too, that I had this relationship with this person and I was filtering out the negative things.
Right.
And we actually had premarital counseling with you. And I know you're probably like, when was this? It was a long time ago, before I moved here.
Okay.
And you said something that really rocked my world. And I knew I had to be obedient because you were my rabbi. And the guy was just like, okay, we could just disregard that. I was like, no. And so I really appreciate that you were the voice of reason there too, that you could help me see some things that I wasn't willing to look at. So I just really appreciate you there too.
Well, yeah, listen, I actually started writing a book many years ago. Don't ask for it. I stopped. I don't even know where I started with it. But it was called, basically the idea was, called Let's Get Real. And it was my way of addressing the fact that most of the time we are not living in reality. We have so much filtering going on that we're just partially in reality most of the time, okay? Maybe a little more sometimes than other times, but we're just not. And so the whole book was to try to get people to understand all the different ways that we are disconnecting, filtering, or avoiding dealing with reality, okay? And so the whole point, the book was called Let's Get Real. Like, and it was not gonna be, one of those real encouraging, gentle books necessarily, because it's like, I think in order to be successful in life, the way you do that is you have to live in it, in the reality of it, okay? It's kind of like, if you have a problem with a tooth and you don't go to the dentist, the reality is you still have the problem. But you can just not go. It doesn't change the fact that the problem's there. We ignore so much, or we spin, or we do all these other things. You're mad because I didn't write the book? Okay, so I got some people over there looking at me like, I can look for the notes where I started it. I mean, this goes back probably at least 15 to 20 years. But, you know, I teach a lot of the stuff that would have been in the book anyway. Taught a lot of it today even, okay, that would have been in the book. The idea, and that's why I appreciate Marlene bringing it up, is that I think we all have to understand how much we filter, spin, and adjust what's real so that we don't actually have to accept, see, or receive it in the real way that it is. And that's where we cannot, you know I told you to all like observe, adjust, you know, and that kind of thing, like observe what's going on. But if you don't observe it in reality, if you're filtering it, you're still not observing it properly to then adjust to it, okay? Right, observe, adjust, and move on and just keep going, right? But I want you to really work on that kind of questioning that she pointed out, that you heard me in her head saying, hey, why am I doing this? What's the result I'm looking for? Is that really is that actually even what's gonna happen, okay? And I remember a couple that was getting divorced and the husband had walked out and the wife was doing all these things thinking she was gonna punish him, like, oh, he'll get the message from that. No, he wasn't. And I told her that. I said, he doesn't care what you're doing. You're not punishing him. But this is the spin she put in her head, okay? And so I want all of you to think about how much are you actually in reality? Okay, I'm not saying you're like some delusional crazy need to be locked up somewhere. I'm just saying is we tend to filter and spin so much that we're probably most of the time 70, if we're doing well, 70, 80% in reality. That 20 to 25 or 30% not exactly right messes us up a lot, okay? Even if you're 90% in, that 10% can mess you up. And so, you know, I want to encourage you to get into things as much, it is what it is. That's reality. Reality is, not what you should or want or desire or whatever. It is. That's reality, okay?
Okay, and on that note, I really appreciate the last thing you were talking about regarding texting, emailing. You know, I just, you know, it was so funny you said, if it's longer than my screen and I have to scroll. You know, I appreciate working in the office again because I have to use this with you and Elder. You know, when I text you or when I message Elder, you know, when it's too long, when I message Elder and it's too long, he doesn't read the last sentence or the last, and I'm like, wait a minute, I said this. He's like, oh. So it's good practice for me. And
right, but when you send me notes or texts and those kind of things, what do I normally do?
Come talk to me.
I normally come talk to you, okay?
And I really appreciate that. It's good practice for me, and I need to do this in my life, Rabbi.
And I'll even come talk to you sometimes having not read it, just going, what did you need?
Yeah. And so I'm going to say this to everybody. I have been the coward that is texting and emailing and not calling because I've been hiding behind the screen. And I know this is a deal with a whole bunch of people that don't want to be confrontational or don't want to be rejected or are afraid of whatever. But that's how we grow up. We have to grow up, like you said. If we don't call the person, if we don't actually talk to them and have this, you know, we're like heated about whatever, like they respond back and we take it wrong and now we're heated and all this stuff, it's dumb. You know, and we're being childish, like you said, middle school, and we're hiding behind the screen. Mm-hmm. And I've been one of those cowardly people, hiding behind the screen, writing long, scrolling texts. You know, and I appreciate you talking about it because I need to stop.
Good.
And when I thought about addressing the situation with this person, I was thinking about what I was going to write, and then I was thinking I should just call them. I should just ask, can I call you? I mean, I didn't do it because I wasn't going to get the result that I wanted. Right. But at least I was going to do that. So sure. We need to get courage, people. We need to get courage. You know, we need to acknowledge that we've been cowardly, and we need to get courage.
All right, go back to the fear of Yahweh teaching. Remember, fear is false evidence appearing real. Okay? So you're afraid of what you think might be the response. You're afraid of, but then you're not in reality though. Okay, if you actually talk to somebody, now you're in reality. And by the way, if you talk to somebody, then you also get to do, which is why I like to talk to you instead of, I don't think texting is talking to somebody. Because I can hear your tone of voice, I can read your face if we're face to face, and I can very easily gauge whether you received what I said the way I was hoping or not. I can't get that out of a text. I have no idea how you responded when you read what I wrote. But if I say something to you, even if we're on the phone, I can hear by your response whether or not you actually got the same information received as I intended going out. Because that is a problem. One of the hardest things we do as human beings is communicate. Because what I say and what you receive, you ever have that problem with people? What you say and what they receive doesn't match? How much of that is worse when it's in emails and texts? It's much worse. And then I watch people frustrated going back and forth trying to fix it. I said, just call them. You're just so used to this like safety. I don't know if it's maybe a fear thing, a courage thing, but just, Elder will tell you all the time. Somebody sends emails. I said, get them on the phone. Let's deal with them right now. Okay? I like to deal with things as fast as I can, when they come up, and directly. Because then I'm dealing with it real. Some of you are like, well, I don't want to come see Rabbi to tell Elder this because I know what he's going to say. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But you don't necessarily know how I'm going to say it. And you also don't know what else I might say to package whatever it is I'm going to say. So you may be right about, I'll say yes or no or whatever it is you're looking for an answer about. But until you come and experience it, you may be missing all kinds of other things that'll come out of it. Okay? And you may need to hear it instead of just saying, well, I know what Rabbi's going to say. Well, maybe you need to hear me say it. All right? But don't be afraid. Let's deal with reality. Okay? You need a dentist, go to the dentist. You need the rabbi, go to the rabbi. Okay? Stop avoiding what you need to do. All right, Micah.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Yes, very good teaching as well. I've got a lot from it. Part 19. Do we got a part 20 coming up?
I didn't even finish the chapter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we still got to go to chapter 6, and then I got one more place to go, so I don't have any idea what longer this is going to be. But I have only one more after that, so
all right,
getting close. I
got some input to what was brought up dealing with where it says, no unclean, no idolater, has no inheritance. So scripture hit me. It's Matthew 5:30. It says, if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you, for it's better for you for that one of your members perish than your entire body to be thrown into Gehenna. I don't know if that kind of follows what the point of no inheritance is, meaning that you won't make it into the kingdom, you won't make it there. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, it's basically saying, yes, the inheritance is the kingdom is the inheritance. The forever is the inheritance. Okay? So he's saying, look, if you don't figure these things out, you're not going to get there. And it's Gehenna.
Gehenna.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the Valley of Hinnom is the metaphor, which is the garbage dump outside a town in Israel that, was burning with the garbage. And so it's what they use as a metaphor for that, right?
Okay. So it's better to like, I think another scripture says, pluck your eye out or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's better for you to cut off some people out of your life that are causing you to stumble than to stumble.
Right. Okay. So that kind of went with it. And then the other points you brought up about you said busybodies. So, man, I seen a bunch of scriptures hit me with that one. I got Thessalonians chapter 3 and 11. For we hear some among you walking disorderly, not walking at all, but as busybodies. And 1 Timothy 3 and 11, not false accusers. Timothy 5 and 13, they learn to be idle, going house to house, gossip, and busybodies. And then I got another one in Leviticus where it really just stands out to me. Leviticus 19 and 16, it says, do not go slandering among your people, do not stand against the blood of thy neighbor. Or in another spot, it says a meddler and speaking those things that are improper. Those are very critical things, I believe, that shouldn't be going on because it separates us. And we're supposed to be, like you said, a community, seeing eye to eye. But at the same time, we don't put away those ones, like you're saying. There's people in your life you need to not be around because they are, how could two walk together unless they be in agreement? I think the scripture says. Or how can there be fellowship with the light and the dark? There is none. So these things we have to look at as they're critical to our walk, and there's another thing that I would point out too. I'm a victim as well. I'm gonna do a little confession. I like to get behind the keyboard too and say some things. I think I was blocked out of our chat a couple of times before I even came here. So I can bear witness that you need to come and talk to people instead of trying to, it's not going to work. You just sitting there on the keyboard typing all these things in. You might need to come and really, call or be voice to voice and make your thoughts and ideas known. Because it's not I don't feel like it was profitable for me to sit there and try to say something against the congregation without being in the congregation or being a part of seeing what's going on. Because I didn't have all the information until I showed up. And I'm like, okay, I see what's going on.
Was that the only problem though?
When?
In other words, was that the only problem with what you were doing? What was the biggest problem with what you were doing?
Texting?
No, when you were trying to get in a chat and have issue with a congregation, your biggest problem is that it wasn't your role.
Right.
Now, you were sticking your nose in something that wasn't your job.
I guess you could say I was being a busybody.
Yeah. Busybodies are sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. Okay?
Yeah.
And all you guys in the chat that want to go and say, well, all right, look, you don't have to like and agree with anything that's here, but is it your role to say something? Well, you think it is because you're self-anointed yourself to be the guy who goes on everybody's chat and straightens everybody out. That isn't necessarily your role, okay? You never see that done in Scripture. That's not what people do, okay? Those who have an anointing, they tend to just teach. And then they teach things the way they see it. And if they see it different than the other people, then what they teach is going to be different than what other people say, like what I do, all right? I don't ever watch a teaching that I don't disagree with. It just happens to be that I've hard to find anybody I agree with. Okay, I get that. Do you know how many times I've chatted or texted in any of those videos I watched? 0. And I've disagreed at some point with every single one of them. So why would I type anything in? Who am I to them? Okay? If I really had a problem, I could call the person up and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you and discuss some things that I think maybe. But then I would be going back to what Marlene was saying is, okay, what was I hoping to accomplish and what was the likelihood? And that's something you should have thought of when you typed in our chat before you got booted or blocked, is that, what were you hoping to happen and what was the likelihood? And the likelihood was 0 of whatever you were hoping to happen, okay? Because that's just not the right forum for it, and so the result was never gonna happen. And that's to all of you guys who are out there being busybodies thinking that you're straightening everybody out in the chat, and all you do is get blocked or put in timeout or something because it's the wrong format for it, it's the wrong forum for it, and so it's out of order. And so you're out of order. And so it's never gonna accomplish what you're hoping it will because the whole thing is just out of order, okay? I mean, I haven't done this yet, but might have a conversation with another teacher and say, look, I think you're off on this thing, okay? And we can have a conversation about it respectfully. I'm not gonna just start blasting away in somebody's chat. That's just foolishness, okay? Okay, anyway, but thank you for being willing to admit that was it, but you also admitted that it was partially because you had made these comments thinking that you had understood things, you didn't have enough information and you didn't really understand. Which is another reason why you have to be careful that you don't jump to conclusions, start firing off at people, and you're just shooting out all over the place, and yet you could still be wrong because you just don't have enough information. But you made your assumptions and made your conclusions. You gotta be really careful. You end up looking dumb, okay, or foolish at the end of it. All right. Now we appreciate and certainly forgive you for whatever you typed in the chat that all the time ago because you're here and we're glad that you're here. But just understand that that's the potential that you guys face when you don't really think things through. You must make sure that you actually understand what you're attacking before you attack it. And then if you did, you probably wouldn't attack it anyway. All right. All right, Lisa.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was a really good teaching. I appreciate it. And as
Praise
one
God.
of the new kids on the block, it's one of the reasons that I came here is to work on interpersonal relationships because I realize that I'm lacking in those skills. So my question is, when do we get our first team building session? You know, the one where somebody falls back and you have to catch them, those?
I have to resist using language I was about to use. Don't take this wrong. Okay, but all of that's BS. That is lazy people's ways to think that blah, 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 blah. You want to build teams? I just did that today with this message. You want to build teams? Show up and stay for Oneg. Sit there and talk to people. Okay, you don't need an organized team building exercise where we do some sort of rope climbing walk thing or fall back and people catch you and all this. You know what? Stop that. That's childish. Okay? Show up. Be available. Work on yourself. Let people work on themselves. Everything I gave you in today's message was part of team building. Okay? So you want to know when the next team building is? In about 45 minutes when we have our own egg. That's the next team building. Okay? And you should stay. A lot of you don't. All right? But you should. Now, some of you have legitimate issues with driving at night. I'm not judging that. Okay? But those of you that can, stay. Those of you that want to stay that have driving issues, maybe find someone that'll drive you home and pick you up, bring you here, and drive you home so you can stay. I bet you can find somebody to do that. Just got to go ahead and work those things through. But the way you build a team is you start it by showing up and then participating. That's what makes it a team. Okay? Marlene.
So on that note, I found that another good team building activity is, especially if you disagree with somebody, or if somebody said something that you were offended by, to go to them and work out the issues. So, which can be scary, depending on, where you come from or your perspective or whatever, but it really helps get on the same page, clarify things, both of you all can share how you felt about whatever, and it has really helped me overcoming my fears and
Right.
struggles. It has been really good for me every time I talk to a person that I had a disagreement with or misunderstanding or hard feelings or whatever. So
Right.
that's been really beneficial.
But what gets in the way of that? The ego. All right? You are not going to be able to do this if one or both of you are having ego problems. By ego problems, I don't mean like you're raging egomaniacs. I mean that you're sensitive to your image, where someone's actually going to point out you're less than perfect and that you did something they didn't really appreciate. See, if your ego's in the way, your first reaction will be attack and defense. You'll defend you and attack them instead of receiving. If somebody wants to come to you and talk about, hey, I think you and I have an issue we need to talk about, you should be excited to hear and receive, not be ready to pull out weapons and go to war. But most of us go to war instead of being willing to hear. All right? And then if you are going to your brother, don't go with attack mode on. Go there out of, with compassion, saying, look, you and I have a problem. Okay, can we all use the sandwich? Okay, I describe it as the sandwich. You have a problem with your brother, start off with what you really want. Hey, I really want us to have a good relationship. Then we stick in the middle the problem. But we have a problem I want to talk to you about. But I want you to understand that after we talk about it, I really want this, the point is I don't want us to have a problem anymore. I want to fix it, okay? That package allows for the thing in the middle to be more likely, not guaranteed, but more likely received well. Okay, more likely that it'll be received well. Okay, always stick in that middle there saying, hey, but we have a problem. If we can't fix this problem, I don't know if we can have a relationship. But I want one. I want us to fix this. I want us to be friends or whatever that is, right? But we have a problem that's interfering with that I want to talk to you about. And I really want you to hear me and don't get all upset and defensive. And let's talk about it, all right? And so that's important, okay? That's how it needs to be. Look, that's kind of the conversation you and I had when we had a little problem with your job review thing, and you had wanted that raise and everything, and I said, whatever. And then when we sat down later, I said, look, you need to know you're valued. You need to know that I appreciate you. You also need to know that this job just doesn't pay that. But I was packaged with, but you're really valued, you're doing a great job, whatever. So I gave you the sandwich there, and that's why it went as well as it did. That was part of it, is because it's the presentation. Starts off with the positive desire for what we want, the challenge is in the middle, and then the positive desire, again, reiterated at the end, okay? So use that anytime you're going to sit down with somebody you have a challenge with. Just remind them, hey, look, the point of this conversation is I want us to do well. But right now we have a problem that needs to be dealt with. But just remember, I'm doing this because I want this to go well. That's your little sandwich, okay?
I'm really excited about overcoming the past fears and struggles. And I'm going to really implement the talking to people instead of texting and messaging. Okay.
Good.
On the
Good.
side note, the
Wait,
reason...
and one last thing about the sandwich. Do you know why it works? Because not all, but one of the reasons people get attack, defense, reaction is because they don't know where you're going. So they're preemptively trying to lash out because they think you're just going to toss them aside or you're attacking them, whatever. So if you package it with the right expectation of, I want us to deal with something with the hope that we end up being good. So now they know what your intention is. If you just come up and say, I really didn't like what you did the other day and I've got a problem, they're just going to go into defense attack mode. Because they have no idea how you feel about them. I woke up and you say, look, I love you and I want us to be good, but I got something we need to talk about that really kind of messed me up a little bit, whatever. But I want you to know that I want us to fix this because I want this to be good, right? Now you're preset in a different mindset to receive possibly. It won't work all the time. Some people just get defensive no matter what. But it gives you a better shot. Does that make sense? Because the person tends to lash. You wonder sometimes why people react the way they do, because they have no idea how you really feel because you didn't tell them. They just know you're upset about something. Make sure, husbands and wives, you have a problem, start off with letting them know, I don't want a divorce if that's what you don't want. Let them know what you want up front. I want this to work, okay? However, I'm willing to get a divorce if we can't fix this thing because this thing is a real problem, but know that I really don't want the divorce. I really want this to work. That's a sandwich, okay? That way the person is receiving the middle part, knowing that you really do want this to work, but you're also willing to, if we can't fix this, we can't fix this. But you need to know I really would rather, always lead with what you want, okay? Okay, what you want as a result. Not what you want, I want you to stop doing this, I want you to stop. No, what's the result you want? I want us to be good. I want our marriage to be good, I want our relationship to be good, I want a working relationship, if you're an employee and employee, whatever. What do you want as the result, okay? Then talk about what's causing a problem with that result in the middle. All right, go ahead.
So why I came back up was when you were talking about the correct platform, what Michael was saying, correct platform for certain things. And what I wanted to say was that sometimes people call and they want to give me a message to pass on to you. It's like a whole story. And I think now, since you brought this up, should this be my response to the story? Is okay, so I can get pass on a message to Elder Billy to get you on Rabbi's calendar? Because I'm not passing like it's...
No, you can interrupt him up front and say, look, why are you telling me the story? And the answer is because they don't want to tell it to me or Billy, they want to tell it to you, okay? And say, I'm not here to hear people's stories. I'm a director of traffic. Right? You call, I direct you to who you're supposed to talk to. You are not the person they're supposed to talk to, unless they're calling, for example, about the feast, right? And a registration issue. But if it's about a story, about something that's counseling-wise, whatever, and I got a bunch of you out there, stop avoiding us. Now you're really going to avoid us. I yelled at you. Stop avoiding us. And stop bothering Marlene. Marlene is not there to counsel you. She's not there to be empathetic and sympathetic. She's the receptionist and the administrator in the office there. That is her job. She's the director of traffic, okay? She's gonna direct you to the person and connect you with the person that you need to talk to. That person, most of the time, is not Marlene, okay? Stop doing that. Because what you'll do is you don't like talking to me, so you start talking to Elder, you don't like talking to him, now start talking to her. Stop it. Okay, Elder's not gonna let you get away with it either. He's gonna say, no, you need to talk to Rabbi, stop talking to me. Stop avoiding. Grow up. And Marlene is not her job. Okay, her job is to direct you to whoever, whether it's me, Rabbi Tom, or Elder, whatever you're supposed to be. Unless it's administrative, then that'll be her job, that's fine. But don't be telling her your stories and about your life and everything else. That's not her job, okay?
I got it. I am the director of traffic.
You're the director of traffic,
I like that.
okay?
I'm gonna use that next time when you come.
Yeah, somebody calls and starts talking, say, hold on, I'm just here to direct traffic, okay? All right? Look, this is really old school, all right? But some of you can remember even sitcom type things or shows, whatever, that we used to show the old way telephone systems worked, and there was a person pulling one plug in and plugging it into a different slot to connect people together. Remember that, like on Laugh-In with Lily Tomlin, and she like, one ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingies, right? Okay? That's your job, essentially. You answer the phone, who you looking for, okay, and you click them into the next hole so it connects to the person, right? They're just moving these plugs around, okay? Now, some of you are so young, like, what are you talking about? Before cell phones, before all that other stuff, okay? So there was a switchboard you'd call, and an operator would say, who are you trying to connect to? And they would just literally move one wire into a different slot so they would connect you to who you're trying to connect to, okay? But that's the director of traffic. You're there to say, how can I help you? Who do you need to talk to? Elder, fine, let me see if he's available. Rabbi, okay, let me give you the elder, he'll see if he's, he'll schedule you, whatever. You're directing traffic. All right, Rabbits and Joanne. Looking very golden and sparkly.
Rabbi, first I would like to thank you for this teaching. I thought it was amazing. But now I'm going to, I want to tell an experience that actually happened to me that what you said brought back to my memory.
Okay.
It was a few years ago when this new lady moved here. And she would come to services, and I started really disliking this person. And every week it got worse. And I didn't dare say something to Rabbi Tom, because I knew what he'd tell me. Why is it bothering you? Same thing you all say.
Right.
Because you're all on the same page. So it was about 3 or 4 weeks after she moved here, I was sitting back there, and I was really upset. And then Abba just whacked me right in the back of the head, and he said, why are you letting this distract you?
Exactly.
And I realized that was distracting me from learning. So I went home and I started really mulling this over. Why is she annoying me? Why does this woman annoy me? And the more I thought about it and started picking everything apart, I found out she did nothing wrong. I was jealous of her. So I had to correct myself. So maybe that's something that when somebody annoys you, start thinking about, why? Why are these people annoying me? Because sometimes it's not even anything they're doing. It's just some way you're...
Trigger something in you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was that experience. But from that experience, I started realizing leaving a congregation or any place because somebody annoys you or somebody said something you don't like or did something you didn't like or you don't like their kids or whatever it is not, to me, it's a poor choice because we all have to learn how to get along with everybody. Because when you're in Abba's kingdom, if he allows you to be there, if you can't get along with people, then maybe you won't be there. So you have to learn to get along with everybody. So I try to just be neutral with everybody. I don't get too involved. I just stay kind of neutral, but I'm always here if you need me. A lot of the things that Rebbetzin Julie has done, with the exception of doing a whole program for the kids, I've done. So I'm just here to support her, to support you. If you need me, I'm here. Now, on the other side of that, I'm going to give you an example. It was 2.5 years ago when Miss Betty walked up to me during Oneg, and she said, "Would you like to go out for lunch this week?" And I said, "Sure." And so we made an appointment, and we met, and ever since then, Miss Betty and I have been going out for lunch once a month for 2.5 years.
Oh, it's got to start with something, though, right?
Miss Betty is my best friend.
Oh.
And I've went out with some other ladies. They would ask me to come over for tea, or they'd ask me to do this or that. Sometimes I would invite them. And I've got to know people just by doing that, because I know I am not good in a crowd, because I have a lower voice. And when I try to speak, nobody can hear me. So I tend to just sit there and not say anything.
Right.
So anyways, maybe, first of all, I want everybody to know I'm retired. I can go out.
Everybody's on notice. Rebbetzin Joanne is available for lunches and teas.
There you go. But maybe if there's someone you'd like to get to know, maybe I should just ask them if they'd like to go out for a lunch.
Right. And I think I said that earlier. That's perfect. I did say that earlier, and I think that's perfect.
Because if you're on one-on-one with a person, or maybe two or three people, you really get to know that person. So I just thought I'd throw that out there and see if that might help some of you.
Well, thank you. That was very well said. I appreciate that. All right, 2 things real quick. So one is, okay, she just reemphasized what I had said earlier. I don't remember if I said it during the teaching or during that prayer time thing when I said something. But you know what? You guys, some of you are much more set up or designed for small, one-on-one, one-on-two type, 2, 3, 4 people at the most, right? Okay? So why not initiate that as opposed to just waiting on everybody else to figure it out? Now, as it worked out, Betty had invited her, and that started this sort of ball rolling. But that's just, you have to understand your personality, okay? My personality is a little bit weird. If I go out with 2 or 3 of you, you're all going to be sitting opposite me, and I'm going to be sitting by myself on the other side of the table because I like to face people. And that might seem a little weird, but people get used to that with me, but I don't like to sit next to and try to talk. I'd rather be facing, okay? Even my wife, when we first were married, she always wanted to sit next to me. I said, no, I want to look at you. I want to sit across from me, okay? The sideways thing doesn't work. So you just got to learn each other. Figure out what works for you. And, and then you can build a relationship out of whatever you guys actually have enough in common and how that all works out. And you might see each other occasionally, whatever it is, okay? Now, second thing I want to say that's vitally important. I already mentioned sort of this idea that you might go around me and go to Elder, or you might go around Elder, go to Marlene. Do not go around any of us and go to our wives. Leave them out of the mix, okay? You want to go to Rebbetzin Joanne? Make sure it's something that is about Rebbetzin Joanne, not about going around Rabbi Tom or going around one of us or whatever. You want to go to my wife, Rebbetzin Julie? Well, then make sure it's about m.t.o.i or the kitchen and things that she actually has authority over, or just out of relationship with her. Don't go to her when you want to go to me. Don't go to Chantel when you're trying to get around Elder, okay? Don't go around us to our wives. Ladies used to corner my wife in the kitchen and other places on a regular basis. They used to follow her into the bathroom, okay? Because they had some issue with me they wanted to talk to her about. I can tell you right now, none of us have wives that will rule over us and make us do what you want. okay? Right? All right, just look at an elder too, because we love our wives, we respect our wives, we take input from them, but we're not taking your input from them, okay? And most of the wives will be able to look you in the eye and say, you need to talk to my husband, you don't need to talk to me. And they won't play that game. So let's not do that. I forgot your first name. Philip, okay.
I'm not trying to be too off topic, but
There is no off topic, go for it.
you were mentioning how
I'm amazed you think there's a topic.
you were talking earlier about how you don't generally criticize or comment on other teachers, and I was wondering, was it ever hard to bite your tongue on the Rabbi Roundtable back in the day?
Somewhat, sometimes. The Rabbi Roundtable back the other day, the hard thing about it was 5 guys fighting for a microphone, okay? So on Hebrew Nation Radio, they did a thing called the Rabbi Roundtable, which was the Torah portion for that week. And it was a 2-hour show, and there's a rotating 5 of us, you know. I could have been on it all the time, but I couldn't commit to always be available on Wednesday at whatever time it was to call in. They did it with Skype into the radio, right? And so we're all in the Skype room fighting for the microphone, you know, because we're supposed to go in order and say something, but of course, everybody would say something that somebody else wanted to make a comment on, you know. So actually, the Skype chat room was the most entertaining part of it that nobody got to see. As we were all lying, going, I'll be quick. Yeah. One of us teacher guys with a microphone, I'll be quick. Can I just jump in? I guess, you know, we had this thing called the me. So we type in M-E as many times as we can and then hit enter, meaning I want to go next, I want something to say, so it's the me's, right? Because we were supposed to go in order. And remember, 2 hours divided up by 5 people, plus a moderator, all trying to throw their 2 cents in about whatever. And then if we didn't agree and then somebody wanted to say something and everything else, But if I did disagree or had a problem, I didn't usually bite my tongue. I really whacked one of the people for butchering Hebrew, and I was like, look, you're on a round table and being a teacher, rabbi, whatever. If you're gonna say Hebrew, at least stop butchering it. And they got real mad at me for that, so.
I might have to go and look that one up.
Yeah, I did. I don't remember who said what, but I said, you know what? I had to say something. I said, look, people are listening to you. They're gonna now mimic you and repeat the word pronounced incorrectly. And I just had to say something. I said, I don't know about the rest of you, but I was raised, you know, in a Hebrew school. You know, I learned how to pronounce the words correctly. And so I had to say something. So every now and then I did. So biting my tongue, it wasn't so much a biting tongue thing. I had so little time to try to make whatever points I made. I had to just be very efficient about trying to make a point I needed to make and not get caught up going back and forth. So it wasn't the best forum to do anything in. It was kind of entertaining, more from the guys interacting in the chat and other things. And, you know, somebody was about to open up a can of worms, like, uh-oh, here he goes, he's gonna say it, he's gonna open up the can. You know, it's just dumb. It was dumb. We're on Hebrew Nation Radio, I think, twice a day still.
Well, I'm glad you were on there at the time because that's how I found you, so.
Oh, good, good. It's not a radio anymore, it's now just on the internet. The radio station's now a...
And you can call on the phone, but who needs that when you got this?
Oh. Well, anyway, we still have a show. I think it's called Now is the Time, which is our old name of the ministry before m.t.o.i. So look up on Hebrew Nation Radio online, and I think we're on twice a day. The radio station's out of Oregon, so anyway. So I used to be on there. I used to do the round table and stuff, but it started going really off the deep end in a lot of different ways, so I stopped doing it. I didn't have the time anyway. Shamus Rob.
All right, thank you, Rabbi. I guess something quick. We now just listen to the people as they're coming up here, and they're talking about things that other people have done, or they want to go to them addressing that. I guess to bring it back too is that, you know, maybe you can address it is that maybe you are wrong too. You're going to them, and there's something that you misunderstood or something, and you need to be able to be accepting that you may be the one in wrong, and you might be able to have to take some correction.
Yeah, you're gonna have to really be open to the possibility that you jump to a wrong conclusion somewhere along the way, okay? And then based on your reaction on that, the thing just spiraled. And it was one after another made it worse and worse and worse, because whatever you did, then they did, and you did. But it all started off with somebody making a wrong assumption. And so you just got to be really careful. So a lot of times it's helpful to go to somebody and say, look, I'm having an issue with something. It could be my fault. I could have gotten whatever, but I'm upset about something, so I wanted to talk about it. Always good to let them know that you're open to being the one that's wrong, or at least having contributed to the problem, okay? Because it may not have been your fault initially, but then when you reacted to it in maybe an overreact, now the whole thing got exacerbated to the point where it really became a problem, okay? So you gotta always be ready to and willing to own your part of something, all right? But yes, it's very, very possible on a regular enough basis that you could have gotten something wrong and then you reacted to it based on what you thought, and then the whole thing just spiraled. And then, by the way, it's very hard for you to believe the person when they say, wait a minute, I didn't do that, or that's not what I meant. And you're like, but you already convinced yourself that it's exactly what happened. And so your version of reality is your reality. Then you're in a he said, she said about, the person saying, but I didn't do that, or I didn't say that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay? All right, live stream. Nope, Maisie's coming up first before we go to live stream.
Rabbi, I just want to let you know that I thank you so much for being the man that is always willing to stand in the breach and say what needs to be said. You often talked about your feelings being all over the floor and getting stepped on. Well, I think those feelings need to be stepped on sometimes, because we get wrapped up in our feelings and in our emotions and think it's all about us. We're supposed to be elevating one another above ourselves. So you talked about earlier, you took me back down memory lane when you talked about sticking two kids in a room and letting them work it out. Well, I had an earthly dad who was a professional boxing manager and trainer. And he would stick the boxing gloves on us and tell us to go outside in the middle of the street and work it out. It has been challenging for me to approach some people because they feel like I'm unapproachable. But with your teachings, I've been working on my body language, because I come from a rough place. I had to fight every day of my life, almost. So I built up this exterior that's rough and tough, and you better not come at me with any nonsense, because it's on and popping. So I'm learning to soften my exterior so that those that look at me or we catch each other eye to eye, they know I'm approachable.
Right.
I'm still working on me. But I don't want anybody to feel intimidated, because I have a big heart. I'm generous to a fault. And I don't like to see anyone hurting or in pain or carrying any unnecessary grief or whatever it may be. And Abba has always given me a strong heart to be able to take all of the things that I took and still be standing here today. I just want everybody here to know that I love each and every one of you. I may not always like something you do, but it doesn't mean that I don't like you. So just know, if you ever feel like I've done something or said something that makes you feel some type of way, you can come to me.
And we'll get out the gloves and go to the street. No, I'm sorry. That's not what she was about to say.
You're not helping, Rabbi.
It wasn't my intention to help.
No, I'm very receptive of correction, because I'm very red like you are. So I'm able to take correction as long as it's brought to me in a gentle, compassionate, and understanding way. I'm going to approach you the same way. So just know that I love you all, but we do need to grow up. There's too much childish nonsense going on, and we're better than that. I know we're better than that because Abba called us all here. And Abba doesn't make mistakes. So take it for what it's worth. Start loving each other more, loving on each other, and greet those who you see sitting by themselves. You never know why that person is sitting by themselves. Go find out why. You'd be surprised sometimes. But what you can learn from other people, you can learn a lot from others just sitting down and talking with them. Just an open conversation. Don't, like Rabbi said, don't have any blinders on, any blockers. Don't feel some type of way about this person until you sit down and hear them. Because I went through this all my life. I walked alone all my life because women were intimidated by me, men were intimidated by me, and none of them ever approached me and said, you know what, I'd like to get to know you. Tell me something about yourself. And keep that in confidence. Don't go around gossiping and talking about what she told me she was this or he said that. Who cares? Are we still living in the he said, she said phase?
Yep.
Really? We need to grow up and be mature, responsible adults. That's why Abba called us. He wants to see us do this.
Amen.
Because we can do it. Okay?
Amen. Amen. All right, I want to say something. Please don't broad stroke this, okay? I'm just making sort of a metaphor point here. You know, some of you don't understand that some of us that are a little bit, we seem less approachable, okay? And again, don't take this wrong. I come from New York. I come from the big city. People think of us as all rough and tough and busy and this and that and all this other stuff. And then I moved to the South and, oh, everybody's so sweet and everybody's so this. Well, let me just say, and this again, this is not everybody. Don't you Southerners get offended. Preemptive strike with my sandwich here, all right? Look, but I can tell you, I had a lot of sweet, externally sweet people stab me in the back in the South. In the North, I knew what I was up against because whatever I got, that was what I got. Okay? And the people that were the nicest, most generous were the people once you got past that gruff exterior. But once you got past the Southern thing, there wasn't anything there. There was no substance. Okay? Now, that's not all Southerners, though. I want you to see everybody's gonna get all mad. I'm just saying the cliche. Okay, because not all New Yorkers are all that great either. I'm just saying so it's the cliches can be misrepresented. Some of the, my point being this, some of the people that act all sweet and nice to you, those are people we might need to worry about. Not always, but don't be fooled by all that. And the other side, some of the ones who are a little rough around the edges when you first meet them, they may be the closest people you'd ever have a friend with if you would get past that. In other words, don't just judge that. That's not to say there aren't some gruff people that are just miserable after you get through all that. And that's not saying there aren't some sweet people that aren't sweet all the way through. What I'm just saying is we could jump to these assumptions because you hear me up at the mic, you're thinking, you have no idea how I am. Go ask Elder one day how I am in the conference room with people and how gentle I can be, how compassionate I can be. I mean, you would not believe it, okay? And I'm not saying that to brag or anything. I'm saying that I'm me, and I have all of those flavors. But you will never get to see it if you're just looking at what you picture as this sort of strong, kind of maybe harsh exterior, whatever. You may take that as harshness, all right? And so you can't expect that there might be other depths and other levels to somebody. But that's also why you're not sitting with whoever you're not sitting with to talk to at the ONA, because you've already jumped to whatever conclusion. You don't understand all the different layers to the onion that there are there. Okay, that person's got all kinds of different aspects to them that you're not even giving a chance to be aware of. And so if you think you know me just from this, you do not know me, all right? You know a part of me, because I'm very real up here. This is me, But I've got so much more. So does Maisie. That's what she was telling you. Whatever you think you see and know, she's got a lot more. And I can tell you that she's got a lot more. All right? Because I've gotten to know her. And so do you give people a chance and then you find out, surprisingly, wow, there's a lot more here than I thought. I've got a lot more in common than I thought. Next thing you know, like Rebbetzin, Joanne, and Betty, they're really good friends. Okay? Rebbetzin, Joanne said Betty's her best friend. Okay? I'm just saying, but they would never have gotten there if one of them hadn't at least given the other one a chance to do something to get to know each other. Okay? But this is, are you going to give that person a chance? Don't just go with stereotypes, go with this. Because I know people look at me like, he's just a rough New York guy. Well, I am. But you know what? Underneath all of that, some of the most loyal, some of the most compassionate, but they got a little roughness on the outside just to make sure not everybody gets in. Okay? But when you do get in, it's genuine. You're getting real. You know where you stand. Okay? You're not wondering, am I going to get stabbed in the back? Are they being phony? Are they just putting on a show? Whatever. I don't always know that with some people. Okay? In New York, I always knew where I stood. Okay? I always knew where I stood. Okay? Because if they were mad at you, you knew they were mad at you. They were happy with you, they knew you didn't have to wonder. Nobody was playing games. Okay? Not nobody, playing, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just making a generalization here. So don't just assume, but this person, they're just always so nice. I said, but you don't even know that person. Sometimes you're talking about a person I know a whole lot better than you do, and I'm like, you have no idea the mess they are. You have no idea the junk that they do. You have no idea the underhanded things that I know about. You have no idea. There are people that have been here and left that everybody thinks is the cat's meow and walks on water. They did some of the worst things you could ever imagine. But you would never know, and I'm not going to tell you who and what. Okay? But you have your experience. So just be careful that if your experience is limited, that you don't think you know everything. Good or bad. Okay? You only know what you know. Okay? And it's funny because some of you, on the one hand, will accuse me of being too harsh and like throwing people out, which I don't, okay? We've thrown out 1 or 2 people in 30 years, okay? Everybody else has just left, okay? We don't throw people out. But here's the funny part. The other half of you get mad because like I don't throw them out. They want me to throw people out. Why do you let this person be here? Why don't you just throw them out? Why don't you shut up? Okay? What is it your problem? Well, I don't like that they're here. Well, you're not in charge, okay? Thankfully, because if you were, we'd have 15 people in the congregation. The 8 people you like or whatever. It wouldn't be, okay? And that's not what I see happening. You're like the ones throwing rocks at Yeshua hanging out with publicans, Okay, don't be that. Don't be that. Don't be judging the decisions I make and Elder makes and we make together as a leadership with Rabbi Tom. We make some decisions and we allow people room or rope to hang themselves if that's necessary so that it all plays out. Because that shows the patience level we have, okay? But they're hurting. No, they're not hurting anything. If you guys are strong enough, you should be able to handle anything, okay? You should. But of course, you're not mature enough, so you don't. If you were mature enough, you would. Shouldn't matter who's in the room. You should be able to handle anything. Doesn't matter how they dress, how their kids act, how they act, it shouldn't matter, okay? You should be able to handle it, all right? All right, live stream, a couple of minutes left for you guys.
Just real quick, just to say that Micah has been reinstated in the chat, so.
That was, by the way, that was his sideways way of telling you to go home and just type. No, I'm kidding. No, we love you being here. Go ahead.
Okay, from Easy D. Herrera. Rabbi, as a blue personality, it should be what it should be is exactly who I am, but it is what it is always feels unfair. Is Ephesians 5:8 not the point of us transforming?
Yeah. It says, for you were once darkness, but now you are light. okay? But remember, he does say earlier in the previous chapter that we should not be futility of the mind, okay? The should stuff can lead to a lot of futility, a lot of frustration. It's not wrong for you to think something should or shouldn't be a certain way, but then you have to also incorporate, but it is what it is. So it's good that you identify something's not right, okay? Well, that's not right. Well, good, I'm glad you noticed that. But now what are you gonna do with that information? You're gonna leave it alone? You should only be doing with that information what you need to do. Do I need to now avoid that? Do I need to interact with it? Is it good and safe? Is it whatever? That's the judgment you should be using. Judgment, not judging. The discernment. But it is what it is, allows it to just be what it is, okay? When you get too far into that should stuff or shouldn't stuff, now you start feeling like you should be making it or fixing it, making it fix, right? That's only gonna frustrate you and put you in all kinds of problems. Okay? Nobody wants you to do that. Trust me when I tell you, nobody wants you to fix them. Okay? Even people that come and ask us to fix them, they don't really want us to, because if I told them what they need to do, they wouldn't want to do it anyway. Okay? They want it magically to happen. Just wave your hand and I'm fixed. No, it doesn't work that way. All right? It doesn't work that way. All right, next.
From Angela Stone, the head can know truth, but sometimes it's not what you want to do. Is it enough to just do it, even if your attitude may not be right at first?
It takes discipline, and it takes the mind being stronger than the emotion to implement what you just said. So Angela said that, okay, so the head knows something is true, but it's sometimes not what you want to do, so it's hard to do it, okay? So remember, the attitude is saying your emotion is not right, even though you know it's the right thing to do, but you don't feel motivated, driven because you don't like it. You think it's wrong, you don't want to deal with it, whatever it is, you have a wrong attitude, that's an emotion. So the answer is yes, you should just do it because it's right, and you will feel the emotion later, okay? Action also leads to emotion. You may have emotion before taking the action, but doing will create the emotion. It's like we used to teach people all the time when I was a trainer. I used to be a personal trainer. I mean, I did a million things, right? And so I used to tell people all the time, you don't have to go to the gym only when you want to go to the gym. If you do, you're never gonna go to the gym. You go, and when you're there, you'll be glad you were there, and then you'll be feeling like you want to be there. So you create the emotion through the motion. Okay, action creates emotion. Now, you're gonna have emotion before you take the action. That's where the mind has to take over and decide what you're gonna do, whether you want to or not. But what I'm saying is, even if you didn't want to, once you do it, the emotion will shift, okay? So will you be glad you're there, you wanna be there, and everything else. Now, if you go there with a really bad attitude, it's gonna go bad, okay? You have to just go there saying, I'm just gonna go. It's the right thing to do, and I'm gonna chill my attitude out. But when anybody's ever gone anywhere, I am terrible this way. My wife will tell you, if I don't wanna go someplace, it's better if I just don't go, because in my immature moments, I will just have a terrible attitude the whole time, doing whatever it is that we're doing that I didn't want to do anyway, okay? And I've learned and grown since then, so I don't do that quite as much. Because if I'm going to go do something, I have to just say, I've made a decision to do it. Now I should do it with a better attitude, okay? So once upon a time when we first got married, I invented something, all the guys got mad at me. They had a little meeting, they got mad at me when I told everybody about this 25 years ago. So I had this idea that I could twist my head around or shift my emotions and my thinking to do things I really don't want to do if I was doing it with a different result in mind, which is my wife having a good time. So I invented something I called Honey Bunny Day, because that was our little nicknames, Honey Bun, right? We call ourselves Honey Bunny or Honey Bun. So I'm telling them about Honey Bunny Day as my wife walks in the room. I'm telling them about Honey Bunny Day. So I'm gonna get all these men mad at me like the last group of men. Okay, they did. This was at a feast. They all came up to me and said, if you ever say anything like that again and get us in trouble with our wives, because we're not doing that. So what I did was, when we first got married, there was a lot of stuff that we both wanted to do that we liked. There was some stuff that she liked to do, I didn't like to do at all. And so I was like, you know what? We're gonna take a Sunday. We did this on like once a month, have a Honey Bunny on a Sunday. And I said, whatever you wanna do, we're gonna do. We'd do something like, sometimes we go like, just walk around the mall. I hate that. If you know me, I'm there to get something, pick it out, get it, get out. That's it. I'm not window shopping and going through, but I went with a different attitude. Instead of the result of finding the shirt I want, buying it and leaving, I was there watching her face and monitoring her enjoyment level. And so I was able to do all kinds of things that I never would go do. And I certainly wouldn't do it with the right attitude. Because she noticed sometimes we'd go do these things and I had a piss poor attitude. I was terrible. And then she would say things like, I just wish you never came. I was like, oh. And I deserved it. Because I was not the person you'd ever want to go shopping with. Trust me when I tell you, the worst, okay? You did not want to go shopping with me. But I could go and we went sightseeing and did different things and went to different, fun things for couples to do that I would never have any interest in doing. But I had a great time and really enjoyed it because my focus was on her, okay? In other words, when you talk about having a thought or a feeling, I could have had a terrible attitude like I'd had every time we did those kind of things in the previous to that. I had a terrible attitude because I really didn't want to do them. I didn't want to do them. I wasn't going to enjoy it. But then I managed to shift the focus so that it didn't matter what we were doing. It could be anything. And she didn't believe that at first. I said, no, literally anything. Whatever you want to do, this day is yours. I'll do whatever you want. And she was a little bit tentative with that. Okay, let's see. Because I wasn't that way at first, right, before I came up with this idea. But I just kept looking and checking in with her, seeing how happy she was, okay? And so I got the result I was looking for as a red, which is a result. So as long as she was happy, I was good with whatever it was, okay? So again, it's a mindset that you then go, and then of course, your attitude has to go along with your decision. You can't go make a decision and have a terrible attitude, okay? You have to go with the good attitude. Otherwise, you're gonna be sitting there going, see, I knew I didn't want to come. See, and this is happening, and I knew that would happen, and I knew this would happen, and I knew, right? Anybody done that? Okay? Okay? One person very willing to raise his hand high. Okay? All right, but so this is a good question. So the person says, the head can know the truth. So what's the truth? The truth is, I should be able to do things she wants to do that I don't want to do. Okay? That's the truth. Because no two people are going to want to do everything the same. Okay? If you are that way, you're weird. Okay, so I met a couple like that. I actually did their wedding in Canada where they seemed to like everything matched. Their love languages matched. Their everything matched. I was like, you guys are just weird. Okay, good for you. I found a unicorn couple. All right? But generally speaking, that's not the case. So what you do is you figure out what the right thing to do is. The right thing is I should figure out a way to be able to do her things, that she should be able to figure out how to do my things, and we can still enjoy them somehow together, even though they're not each other's things, so to speak, right? Okay? Now, of course, we're married partially because we have a lot of things that we both enjoy. But there's still gonna be those things that we don't both enjoy. But we still would like to do it together. And so how do you get your brain wrapped around that? Well, you got to focus it in a different way, okay? I'm just using that as a metaphor for everything that Angela Stone was asking in the question here, okay? All right, it's a metaphor for that, is that you have to find a different mindset to do the thing you don't really want to do, but you know the truth is you should be able to do it, okay? And so that's a shift that happens, all right? Sometimes you negotiate. I am world famous, infamous, for not liking to stop what I'm doing to take a picture. If you don't know that, you've not been around me when somebody wanted to stop me to take a picture. It's not that I mind being in a picture. I just mind being stopped to take a picture. Take a picture of me anytime, anywhere, I don't care, but it's, okay? No, that's not permission. Like if we're doing events, you can't just take pictures. But you understand, I don't mind if we're at some place and people are taking pictures and that kind of thing. So it's not about being in a picture. I'm red. Don't stop what I'm doing. Make me stop and go, Elder loves me when I put on the fake smile, So, but I also know that it's very important to my wife to take pictures. So we're the opposite there. So we negotiate to where I'll behave and have a great attitude when we go on a family thing and we had the kids when they were little, went to a park or something, take a lot of pictures. I said, but when I say that's enough pictures, you have to be okay with that. I'll have a good attitude until we get to that point, but then before I have a bad attitude, I say, look, that's enough pictures. We have to work together. You're not gonna get all the ones you want, and I'm gonna get way more than I want, okay? Nobody wins, but yet we both win. You understand what I'm saying? Let that be a lesson to all you couples. The only way to win is that you can't win. You have to lose a little bit. Everybody has to lose a little bit. You're not gonna, winning means I got what I want and you didn't. That's winning. Okay, winning means there's a winner and a loser. But if you both give in a little bit, you can both win. And you win by losing a little bit. You're not getting everything your way, all right? Anyway, next question. Oh, it's already 5:30. You have anything else that's really important?
I got one more interesting one, if
right.
you'll, from Lorna Anderson
We'll be
Brown.
the judge of whether or not it's interesting, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
She said, your teaching had me thinking, how are we going to spend forever with the people we do not know if we can't get along with the people we know in our congregation?
Excellent point. That's a great way to end this conversation. That was a very good point. How are you going to do with people you haven't even met yet? You can't even deal with the people you know now. Okay? I mean, he's given you this opportunity to work on these skills. Okay? Now, I know some people out there are like, I don't have that opportunity. There's no congregation near me. I get that. One day, hopefully, we can put a congregation where you are. Just move here or near one of our other congregations. I mean, that's one of the opportunities you have. All right, so I hope that was a blessing to everyone.